Well, with hockey star Sidney Crosby about to miss his 14th game due to a concussion, the New Democrats made a timely move to deal with head injuries. They had a news conference today to talk about their push for a strategy on how to deal with it nationally. We're joined from the foyer of the House of Commons by Dr. Nilank Jha, who is the neurosurgeon from the Toronto Western, and of course, New Democrat sports critic Glenn Thibeault. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thanks.
Dr. Jha, tell us about the problem. How widespread is it? Is it getting worse? And what can we do to ease it?
Well, this is a huge challenge, Don. The issue with concussions is that if we were to fracture our wrist, we can do an X-ray and identify this and treat it. However, with concussions, there's no CAT scan, no MRI, no laboratory test that can confirm the diagnosis. Right. And we are now becoming more aware of short-term and long-term outcomes that are adverse from concussions. For example, in the boxing literature and in the NFL literature, the long-term outcomes, in some cases, are an Alzheimer-type syndrome. We know from our emergency room data that's available to us that there's a significant number of children, youth, and young adults from a variety of sports, hockey, football, soccer, mountain biking, that are experiencing these concussions.
But hold on, everyone's wearing helmets these days. Bikers, hockey players are all wearing them, skiers now are wearing them. Why is the number of concussions still a problem? Well, they don't work?
Well, Don, the issue is that there's also a large number of concussions that are going unrecognized. And I think what we do need is a change in the culture of sport. Helmets are obviously one area that we focus on, and there's always technology improving equipment, but I think there's a number of other areas we need to work on for this problem.
For example?
Well, I think what we need to do is we need to bring the children who've had these concussions together. We need to bring their friends, parents, teachers, emergency doctors, neurologists, neurosurgeons, policymakers. All of us need to get together, and each of us is a part of the puzzle. What we do need is education at the grassroots level, so that if a child is playing hockey in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, sustains a concussion on the ice, the parents in the stands, the officials, all the other teammates over there, the opposition, can all say, hey, that child might have had a concussion. What are we supposed to do? And if they know what to do, then we've created awareness. And the awareness is what we need to provide as to what to do in a circumstance like that.
Now, I don't want you to haul out your stethoscope here, but if you're telling a parent who has a kid that gets hit tonight on the head, how do they know he's got a concussion or she?
Well, Don, that's a great question. To have a concussion, you don't even require a loss of consciousness. There are a certain battery of tests that can be done, but pretty much any change in memory, dizziness, headache, there's a constellation of symptoms that could easily be trained at the grassroots level to coaches, parents, teachers, and create that awareness to identify a potential concussion.
All right, Glenn, over to you. You're pushing hard for this. I think they're looking at a royal commission at some point in time. I've seen a lot of royal commissions and a lot of paper didn't get acted on, but why do you want such a comprehensive look at this?
At the end of the day, it's twofold, right? We need to encourage our kids, our youth, to get more active. We know that there's an obesity problem out there, and we're hearing a decrease and a decline in the number of kids that are participating in sport. So if we can actually make sport more enticing by, removing some of the violence that we're seeing, because parents are coming to me and saying, my kid's not playing hockey or soccer or whatever sport because they've received their 4th or 5th concussion and they're 14 years old. So we can actually get them involved. And that actually helps us in that aspect of health and the social side of it. So, you know what, I've got children, we've got parents right across the country, when they sign up their kids, that they want to make sure that their kids are enjoying the game and not necessarily always being witnessed or involved in violence.
Dr. Jha, what happens when a kid has a concussion, it's not recognized, and they just keep on going as if nothing happened? What are the medical consequences?
That's a great question. Don, we do know that after you sustain a concussion, the brain goes into a hypermetabolic state, basically into overdrive for the next 7 to 10 days. And that's why in a lot of cases, people have symptoms for approximately 2 weeks. And that's where we get the return to play guidelines. If one is to sustain a second concussion before recovering from the first, potentially in some cases, one may experience a second hit syndrome. And that's where one might have cerebral malignant edema, swelling of the brain, and in 50 to 100% of cases may result in death. So it's very serious to play with a concussion and continue playing. And that's why the overall guideline is if you're symptomatic from a concussion, you should not return to play.
You think you got a chance of getting this pushed forward, Glenn?
I hope so, because when I ask the question in the House, I don't get the necessary answer that I'm hoping here, but I get the head nod, right? I get the head nod from the Conservative MPs, from the Liberal MPs, and the Bloc MPs. And you know what? After question period, they're coming to me saying, my son isn't playing, my daughter isn't playing, I'm not playing because of it. And I think it's time that we start addressing this. You know, we've been looking at this for a year, we've been calling for this Royal Commission for a year. It's time, I think, for the government to be that facilitator, to bring everyone together, to make the difference so we can have more kids involved with sport.
Well, maybe Sidney Crosby is a New Democrat. You can convince him to carry the crusade for you. Dr. Jha, Glenn Thibeault, thanks for talking to us about this issue. Very important one.
Thank you.
Coming up after the break, MPs today from all sides gathered in the foyer to talk